Am I the only person that just loves when a movie comes out and the audience reaction and critic reactions are just drastically different? It's always super interesting to me because it really highlights the differences between the audience and the critics and what they're expecting when they watch a movie. That's not to say some things that critics want and that audiences want don't have any overlap whatsoever, because there are a ton of people like me who have that critical side of their brain as well as that side of their brain that just wants to be entertained. Let's just go ahead and get it out the way. Black Adam is an average movie. But guess what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with being an average movie. I don't know when it happened, but somewhere our generation, and when I say our, I mean my generation of millennials and even some of the younger Gen Z people, for whatever reason, take heavy offense to words like mediocre or average. It's me! I'm not expecting every movie I watch to completely break the mold of its genre. So let's talk about Black Adam. I'm going to give my basic thoughts and review of the movie, and I also want to talk about some of the unfair narratives going around about the film. I knew with the character of Black Adam, he was going to have to be either a full-on villain or a full anti-hero, and The Rock never really lets himself be portrayed in a pure villainous light. So I thought that that need for him to be portrayed as a good guy would hinder the film, and gladly I was mistaken. I really like the anti-hero aspect of the film. We haven't really gotten an entry like that in DC in a while. With that being said, I felt they could have made him a little more morally gray. He was never in a situation where he was ever gonna harm any civilians or anyone that wasn't an intergang or a bad guy. I really like how they played with the aspect of who's really the hero and who's really the villain here. There was some slight commentary on the fact that the JSA, a superhero team sanctioned by the government, was nowhere to be found when conduct was under the rule of this intergang, and they only show up when they have their own hero. It could have been dived, I don't know the word. I felt it could have been dove into just a little bit more, but I do like that undertone in the film. So Black Adam is your typical fish out of water story. Teth Adam was a slave back in the ancient times, 5,000 years ago, I believe, in an oppressed city of Kondak. His son finds a bit of vibranium or eternium, whatever. There's always some stone or rock that people are after, and due to his finding, he is then going to be sacrificed by the cruel king of Kondak. We're then shown that Teth Adam's character, due to his strength and courage, gets the power of the wizard's Shazam. And he uses his powers to avenge his son as well as free the people of Kondak. For the next 5,000 years, he has been in his tomb asleep. Then he's then awakened by ISIS. No, not the group, like the character's name is ISIS. And that's our first introduction to Black Adam as a character. Super epic opening, a lot of really brutal kills, some really dope effects, and very minimal dialogue. I thought it was handled very well. And then your typical fish out of water story ensues. If you were expecting a full Black Adam only type of movie or a Black Adam full origin story type of movie, this definitely was not that. That's the part where the trailers didn't do a really good job of showing us what we were going to be getting into. I had no idea if Black Adam was just going to be the antagonist the whole movie, or if there was going to be a different villain they were all going up against. They pretty much tried to get away with both, which we'll get into that later. Even though this isn't a perfect film, like I said, I think it's an average superhero movie with some really fun and cool elements. I still think it's being a little harshly criticized. Let's look at a few reviews from one of the most esteemed and well-respected sites for movie critics, Rotten Tomatoes. The fate of the movies that lie in the near future will rest squarely on what Warner DC can bring to the mix. That would have been significantly more than what Black Adam delivered. It was promoted as nothing more than an action flick that takes place within the DCEU, introducing a new character. And to be fair, it did do a lot of world building, whether it be taking a peek into Hawkman and the JSA, bringing in Amanda Waller and letting us know that the Justice League is still around even though we are seeing the JSA. So you can't say it didn't have any implications of what's to come in the future. Why I think people have to credit the writing just a little bit is the fact that you can tell that Hawkman and Dr. Fate's relationship is a very rich and long one, just with the small bits of dialogue they had together. Now, could they have gone deeper? Sure. But in an action-packed popcorn flick, I wasn't even expecting that.
Dude, chill!
Considering how much has been done with the subgenre in recent years, it makes sense that there are certain expectations toward this type of film. Unfortunately, Black Adam does not live up to many of them. There we go with the expectation. Have superhero movies come a long way with films like The Dark Knight, films like Logan and Infinity War and Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and the list goes on. Sure. But as I said while watching Morbius, even though I don't think Morbius was a good movie at all, I do think there is still a place for just a good old action-packed superhero blockbuster. Every superhero movie does not have to be The Dark Knight and Logan. Another top critic: nothing exemplifies the randomness better than a pointless explosion of computer graphics and rhythms to Kanye West's Power. It's as if the producers suddenly realized they needed to confirm that they were hip to the popular beats of the first Obama term.
That's gotta be racist. There's no way.
Were some of the introductions of modern popular music a little cheesy? Sure they were. But the actual score of this movie and the theme for Black Adam was really good. If you're gonna point out some of the cheesy aspects, I think you gotta compliment that score, man. I think a lot of people were also expecting a very different type of performance from The Rock. One of the biggest criticisms The Rock gets is that he pretty much plays himself in every movie. Now he's delivering a more stoic type of performance where the focus is on his physicality, his raw strength, and that fish out of water element of the story. I think he played this role as well as you could expect. It contrasted a lot of his performances in other movies, and he showed a little bit more range than I expected him to have. I'm doing a lot of praising of a movie that I just called average, so let's talk about some of the negatives. On the negative side, one of its biggest strengths is also one of its biggest weaknesses. I really enjoy the movie's pace, but sometimes it moves along so fast that it gives the story absolutely no time to breathe. For a nice chunk of the movie, it was pretty much just fight scene after fight scene after fight scene. And also, in my opinion, when it comes to these superhero movies, the story is only as good as your antagonist. And when Black Adam was the antagonist to the JSA, I think the movie was at its peak. But when the focus shifted and they needed him to be the hero they know he can become, and then the typical CGI monstrosity villain that comes in at the end in pretty much every modern superhero movie, it started to lose a lot of steam for me. It pretty much had every single trope from every subgenre of superhero movies in it, which was cool to see familiar things, and it never did anything where I was like, really? They decided to go with that? It also never did anything to really amaze me or wow me outside of the fight choreography and dope action scenes. So even though I do think some of the criticism is extremely harsh and a little bit skewed, like, to be honest, I would put this movie above Thor: Love and Thunder. I actually like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but I would put this film above that one as well. Like, this was the best time I've had in a theater in quite a while. If you saw Black Adam, I want to know if it lived up to your expectations. Do you think that your expectations ruined your viewing experience or helped it? Let me know down in the comments.